Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another Ayurveda talk done by me, Teacher Ross. Thank you for joining me again. Today, we will be talking a little bit more about routine and diet, something that I think is very important for everyone, not just because it is something that forms part of our everyday, but because it is something that shapes exactly how we express and the things that impact us on a day-to-day basis. Uh, they shape our lives, even the small little things. So today we're going to look at the small little things and try and zoom in on them and hopefully find some ways to find some balance in our own lives. So we'll start the journey with just a little introduction on what we will be doing. So today we will recap, as always, what Ayurveda is and the three different doshas. We will also talk about a structured daily routine for balance, after which we will discuss the Ayurvedic idea of the impulse to evolve. It's an idea that comes from Deepak Chopra, and we will talk a bit about the approach, but it's not evolution in the sense of evolution from one organism to another, but rather the desire to improve ourselves. Finally, we will dive into classifications of Ayurvedic food groups and what each dosha should be eating, um, and maybe also to be avoiding. Right, so what is Ayurveda? If you are joining us for the fourth time, you have seen this before, so please bear with me. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, a good introduction to Ayurveda is that it is a traditional form of medicine that comes from India, the subcontinent of India, and it is a whole body holistic form of medicine that was developed over 3,000 years ago. Some people say over 5,000 years ago. And it is based on uh, years of looking at the physical effects of specific diets and ways of life on particular individuals and the noticing of trends. Um, Primarily, Ayurveda works on the belief that disease and pain is caused by imbalance in the body and in our environment, and a buildup of toxins or ama. Today, we will be learning a lot more about the disease and imbalance and ama, especially ama. And the beauty of Ayurveda is that uh, all of these toxins can be rid. You can clear them from your body, and it is possible to do so just through food and a change of routine. In Ayurveda, there are three main doshas, or three primary doshas. We have Vata, which is the king of doshas. Uh, Pitta comes after that, and finally Kapha. You are born with your dosha, which means that you inherit it from your parents. And so there's nothing that we can do to change this. We can only do things to make sure that we keep our doshas in balance. It's important to note that if you would like to do a test to check what your dosha is, you can go to Ayurveda 1, our first video, where we have a test that you can do built into the video. It's also important to note that everyone has all the doshas present in them. That includes the sub-doshas. We all have Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And so what we are going to go through next, there are elements of all of this in everyone, but primarily there will be one or possibly two that shine for you. So, taking a deeper dive into Vata. Vata is the king of doshas, which means that any imbalance in Vata, whether you are a Pitta or a Kapha, means that this Vata imbalance will dominate your system very quickly. So it's important to take note of the Vata in you. Vata is made up of the elements of ether and air being wind and air as we understand it, while ether is the space in between everything. It's not, it's the space where the air is. And so this includes all matter and everything, all space, which is where you can see that it is the king of doshas, as it is greater than an element. Vata controls the nervous system, um, which uh, is what our stress or fight or flight, where our stress or fight or flight response is. And so uh, any imbalance here would greatly affect not only the body but also the mind. Psychological traits include being imaginative, sensitive, spontaneous, resilient, and exhilarated. Exhilarated being full of energy for positive things. Vata is seated in the following locations: in your brain, head, chest, throat, lungs, your stomach and your intestines, your colon and lower abdomen, and throughout the nervous system, which includes your skin and veins. When we say it is seated there, it means that we can essentially consider all the doshas and subdoshas locations in the body as a flow of energy, in a sense. And these are locations where Vata is very strong and is potentially stronger than another dosha in that location. Finally, a Vata person who is in balance will be alert, clear headed, and exhilarated and lively, full of energy and life. A Pitta person, Pitta is responsible for our metabolism, our digestive system, which is a big part of our conversation today. Um, Pitta is made up of the elements of fire and water. We can quickly see there that if we feed too much of the fire, the water can be affected, while if we feed too much of the water, the fire can be affected. So maintaining balance, even just within our Pitta, is very important. Psychological traits of a Pitta person include being intellectual, confident, enterprising, and joyous. By enterprising, we mean problem solving or able to come up with ideas. Pitta is seated in the following locations: in our stomach and small intestines, in our red blood cells, our liver, our spleen, heart, eyes, and skin. Important to note about red blood cells is this is where our hemoglobin is, which is what allows us to transport oxygen from our lungs to the rest of our organs. And this is not just the transport of oxygen, but food. And so we can see the digestive system, the metabolism, and pitta working as a complete unit. When a pitta person is in balance, they will have bright, clear eyes, glowing skin that radiates happiness and health, energy, and a good appetite. Once again, confirming the link to metabolism and digestion. Finally, as far as the doshas go, we have kapha. Kapha is not just in, but is the structure of the body and the lubrication within it. By lubrication, we mean the ability and ease to move, especially in our joints, our fingers and our elbows, our shoulders, our backs and necks, even our jaw, but also to within the body, movement of food within our system and out. Kapha is made up of the elements of earth and water. This also can be a contradictory pair where out of balance earth can remove water or the earth can suck up too much water. Psychological traits of a Kapha person include being calm, sympathetic, courageous, forgiving, and loving. Kapha is seated in the following locations: in the stomach, just like Pitta and Vata; in our heart, chest, lower back, tongue, sinus cavities, head, spinal fluid, and joints. You can see here places all where we breathe, where we consume, where we need things to move easily back and forth, up and down. We need our joints to be able to continue to move in every direction that they can. Finally, a Kapha person who is in balance is strong, supple and flexible, and able to move well, and has a well lubricated stomach lining, meaning that they have few digestive problems. Right, so now that our recap is done, uh, something that we briefly touched on in the previous episode, Ayurveda 3, we looked at a cycle for the day and which parts of the day we assign or allocate to which doshas. Of course, we only have three doshas, and so the day is broken into two different cycles. Our first cycle goes from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and the second cycle from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We have our 4-hour bands that are allocated to each of the doshas, starting with Kapha in the first cycle, moving to Pitta and then Vata, following the same way in our second cycle, moving from Kapha to Pitta, and finally to Vata. So we can see that the day begins in Kapha with the body feeling slow, heavy, relaxed, and calm. The most physically active time is also the peak of appetite, which is noon. This is Pitta and is responsible for metabolizing food and distributing energy. The second cycle shows the doshas in a different perspective. The evening is relaxed and slow, which is Kapha, but the sunset brings the body back to a stable point of rest. Kapha inclines toward inertia, slowing down. Pitta shows a decreased appetite compared to lunch and fuels the body's rebuilding of tissues during sleep and keeping us warm. Vata shows an alternative to quick thinking in the day and during REM sleep. So it's important to know what your dosha is and what parts of the day you should plan to be active, should plan to be relaxed, should plan to calm down. But we should also obey or honor the natural cycle, not just in the day and in the seasons, but also within our body, that allow us to slow down and move to a routine that is natural for the body. We are now going to take a look at a slightly structured daily routine, which we specifically call Dhanacharya, as we see at the top. And this begins with rising. Rising, we wake up between 6 and 8 a.m. or with the sunrise if possible. We try to do so without an alarm clock. This might take some time to get used to. However, when you notice that you are waking up just before your alarm clock, this is the moment where you can hold back and try to now test yourself to wake up without your alarm. Once you are up, have a glass of warm water. This will encourage your bowel movement. Um, it's a natural part of the day. After this, it's important to go to the bathroom to urinate and move your bowels, after which you brush your teeth. It's especially important to clean your tongue if it is coated. We will learn later what the coating can mean. But if you have any buildup or bad taste in your mouth after waking up, it's important to clean your tongue. This can be done with a silver spoon or a copper spoon, and simply by placing the spoon on your tongue and dragging it down, running the contents under some water, and repeating until your tongue is smooth and clean. After this, you can perform Abhyanga, which is a basic oil massage that you self administer. It shouldn't take longer than 5 to 10 minutes. And because this is oil, which will be coating your skin and your hair, here you can, after this, you can then have a light bathe in lukewarm water. No soap is necessary. You want to allow some of the oils to remain in your skin and your hair. You might want to choose to alternate days of massaging your head and your hair, as the oil buildup can take some time to leave the hair. After bathing, light exercise is recommended through a sun salute or a light morning yoga routine. The idea is not to end up sweating, but rather to get the heart moving and to move the joints and activate the muscles in the body. Searching for a sun salute routine would be possible on YouTube or just online somewhere. They vary slightly, but overall have the same basic idea. After your exercise, we can calm the body down and prepare it for the rest of the day by doing some balanced breathing called pranayama. We have previously covered this in a video. Again, a brief Google search should give you a recap on what pranayama is and how to administer it. Finally, not finally. After your breathing, we've calmed the body, now we can calm the mind and meditate for a short period. I don't think longer than 2 to 5 minutes is necessary. Here we can either choose to clear the mind, preparing for a day ahead, or to specifically meditate on a thing that needs to be accomplished within this day. After your meditation, it's time to have a breakfast, and then we can take a mid-morning walk, which should last roughly 30 minutes. Mid-morning can be around 10 a.m. It's up to you and your schedule. I do realize that the schedule we are putting forward is one that does require some time, and so choose the things that you are able to do in a day, but I recommend choosing them and doing them at least for a week and to notice a difference in your body. Now that the process of rising is complete, we can look at lunch. Lunch should be eaten between 12 and 1 p.m., and this should be our largest meal of the day. They say breakfast is the most important, and while I don't disagree, lunch should be the largest and should be the one like a king. After your breakfast, you should sit quietly for 5 minutes, not to meditate on the deliciousness of the meal, although that might be good, but simply to just allow the food to begin to settle in your body and the flavors dissipate from your mouth. After this, we can take a 5 to 10 minute walk, and this will aid digestion. You will notice that, as it is recommended in the dinner time as well, that this is a very good way to assist digestion. And if you are struggling in any way with it, a walk after eating will always do you some good. After lunch, it could be important to clear the mind and focus again for the balance of the day. And so an later afternoon meditation should be worked in. This can happen at any time in the afternoon, but 3 to 5 p.m. might be the best time to do so, especially as productivity at work might be waning now, and this could give you a chance to focus. Moving to our third stage of the day, we have dinner. Dinner should be eaten between 6 and 7 p.m. This is not just a time where we are likely to have arrived home from work, but it is also important for our bedtime routine. Dinner should be a moderate meal, after which again we sit quietly for 5 minutes and take a 5 to 15 minute walk to assist our digestion. Bedtime, you can see, is 3.5 hours after dinner time, 9:30 to 10:30 p.m. Now, this allows us to, after dinner, engage in some light activity like a walk or something equivalent, and also gives us time to let our food begin to digest and the process mostly on its way, so that we don't have a heavy digestion while we are sleeping. So, a minimum of 3 hours or no earlier than 3 hours after dinner should we go to bed. Once we have gone to bed, it's very important to simply go to bed. No other no other activities like reading, eating, or watching TV should happen in bed. Obviously, there's one activity that can and should, but I will not be a policeman there. So, we have a structure for a day. We have 4 rough times that we should obey. We have our waking up time between 6 and 8 p.m., lunch between 12 and 1, dinner between 6 and 7, and finally bedtime between 9:30 and 10:30. Of course, not everyone and not everyone's work schedules can allow for this, but what is very important is that when you have a routine, that you can at least obey the lunch, dinner, and bedtime rules outside of the allocated times, then this is fine. And to maintain that routine for as long as possible and to not shift it around. An irregular pattern leads to imbalance. Moving on now to our idea of the impulse to evolve. So in Ayurveda, we have 3 ideas of direction that a body or an organism can move in. We have a sattva, a tamas, and a rajas direction. Sattva is the impulse to evolve and progress. And sattvic people like to progress. And they only like to dwell on action that is creative, life supporting, and healthy, rather than dwelling on action for the sake of it. Tamas is the impulse to regress or go backwards, or to stay in the same place. Tamasic people like to stay the same. Their minds do not like to act, and they like set routines and tend toward the status quo. By status quo, we mean when a decision or opinion needs to be made or offered, They will wait to make a decision or wait to hear what other people say before choosing one of their ideas. Not to say they are not creative, but they have moved into a status quo mentality. Rajas is a neutral impulse, and it simply dictates action for its own sake. Rajasic people like to act. Their minds work constantly, but they tend toward impatience, impulsiveness, and physical or kinetic outlets of all kind. It needs to be energetic and it needs to be outward from the body. Looking at sattva versus ama, sattva makes a person more creative, makes them healthier, and makes them happier, which not just is the goal of most individuals, but is a state that is always desired and is maintainable. Someone who is in a sattva state has naturally healthy desires. Desires meaning things that they want or need, and that these wants and needs are healthy and are fulfilled in a healthy manner. Ama, as we have previously covered, is the toxic stickiness that builds up in doshas through continued imbalance. Picture the body with points all over the body and a flow of blood or energy through the body. As we have imbalance in a specific dosha or a specific location in the body, this can lead to stickiness, which slows down or impedes the flow of the energy. And so now, instead of a healthy flow of energy and food and nutrients and everything through the body, we have a pooling or gathering or blockage that is not good. Now, this is a physical description that I have given, whereas now we will look at what mental ama can be produced by. And so, having negative emotions like greed, resentment, guilt, fear, anger, etc., these can build a mental ama that is a stickiness within the mind. This can also be caused by psychological stress, which can come from any source. This is subjective, and anything that causes stress to a person can be considered psychological stress. Examples can include, but is not limited to, family problems, tension at work, financial problems, relationship problems, anything. Lethargy and mental inertia are also contributors to mental ama. This can also include laziness, but is mostly described by either the desire not to think or the inability to find what you are thinking about, to find the word or to find the idea, and to not be able to share that. A big contributor to mental ama, while we will not realize it, is unwholesome surroundings, dark, grey, cold buildings, um, broken windows, bad graffiti, unclean or dirty streets, um, including to walk past people that you might consider criminals or thugs or people that might be a drug dealer or prostitute. These are most certainly unwholesome surroundings, and they lead to a mental ama that they could lead to a mental ama that builds up in ways that we perceive or ways that we block, things that we like or dislike. Contact with other people's negativity, them sharing it in an unsolicited or unasked for way, in a way that potentially you might not be able to deal with, can pass on the same feelings and imbue that ama from them to you. Finally, the consumption of any violent, crude, or shocking forms of entertainment. And this can come from any source, books, games, and TV, or more. Now, I recognize that in this final example, we have a subjective taste that might allow for some violent or crude or shocking forms of entertainment that might not be considered uh, specifically bad by you or by society in general. However, I recommend that if you found yourself disagreeing with me, saying that this will lead to mental ama, I recommend that you consume less of it, um, and to maybe be circumspect about what it is or how frequently it is that you consume this kind of content. Regular consumption can lead to a desensitization. And I sound very weak willed in that sense, but what we train our body to do through our repeated activity allows us to repeat that activity ourselves. Okay, so moving away from the negative things, looking at how we can increase our sattva and decrease our ama. So here it's important to note that you have to actively make the decision to choose a sattvic lifestyle over a tamasic or rajasic one. This is an important decision, one that you would have to be thinking about your decisions, or your actions throughout the day, every day, potentially going forward. It's not an easy decision. However, a healthy body is a sattvic body, and I would like for anyone that is listening to this to be healthy. And so some ways in order to do this are to be pleasant and tolerant to people, anyone and everyone that you encounter, to act only on due reflection and not on impulse, to not be angry in that moment, and to refrain from anger or criticism, even or especially when justified. Take time every day for play, humor, relaxation, and good company. And wake with the sun. Watch the sunset. And occasionally stroll in the moonlight, and especially when it is full. Eat light natural foods, favoring milk with saffron, rice, and ghee. And be generous with others in every way, giving presents and compliments and pointing out the best in people. It seems cliche to say that it's nice to be nice, but the feeling of doing a nice thing or good thing for someone, or simply being the reason why someone smiles, not only feels good for you having done it, but feels good for the person having received it, and feels good for anyone having witnessed it. And simply standing in your house and looking out and seeing a couple or someone or a family out for a stroll in the moonlight could, at the same time, in the same way, not only inspire the same action, but lead to a positive feeling that people are getting from a sattvic lifestyle. Now, going to slightly go back to the negative a little bit and highlight why it is important to avoid ama in as many possible ways as possible by explaining the 6 stages of disease. So whatever the type of imbalance it is that you have, will determine where everything occurs and what type of, or where the accumulation is. So we start with stage number 1, accumulation. This is the process where we have the buildup on one or more of the doshas or sub-doshas within the body. Stage 2 is aggravation. If the imbalance is not taken care of, this excess dosha or over accumulated dosha with ama gets to the point that it starts to spread outside of its normal boundaries to essentially swell up. Dissemination now is that this dosha begins to move throughout the body, impacting other doshas and throwing them off balance as well. Localization, stage 4. This is where the wandering dosha settles somewhere where it does not belong, causing even further, more serious ama buildup and leading to our stage 5 of manifestation. This is where we begin to experience physical symptoms at this location where the dosha is, where the imbalanced dosha is. Finally, stage 6, we have disruption, a full-blown disease. This does not necessarily mean cancer in an individual, but it does mean that the beginning stages of disease, chronic or other, or treatable, is in effect. Now, we've looked at some mental ways to avoid the buildup of ama in our mind. We should now look at the connection between the mind, our digestive system, and toxins, and look at balancing ourselves from another perspective. So here we are learning about Agni and its opposite, not opposite, but something that it can fight is Ama. So Agni refers to the process of digestion or metabolism. It's not just the process. Having Agni means to have a healthy digestion, healthy appetite, healthy desire for food, and a healthy ability to digest and expel that food. The Ayurvedic ideal is that Agni be kept operating efficiently under all conditions, no matter what imbalance or time of day or time of season or stress or anything. The ideal should be that we constantly ensure that our Agni is present and operating. If our Agni becomes cold, then food we eat will not be properly digested and it turns into a foul, bad smelling thing called ama. Alternatively, if our Agni becomes too hot and burns too high, then the nutrients that we digest will burn, essentially, and will not be able to be absorbed into the body. And so the body will not benefit from any of the food that is eating, and therefore this type of digestion leads to weakness and not strength. Agni is supposed to make you feel well, while Ama makes you feel sick. Notice that mental Ama, again, is something that makes you feel sick. And so I don't need to clarify that Ama is not just a bad thing, but something that needs to be avoided or removed from the body. So, Agni gives you a glowing complexion, bright eyes, a strong digestion without constipation or diarrhea, the ability to eat all foods, clear, straw-colored urine, and normal bowel movements without a strong smell. Apologies for the spelling mistake. This is supposed to say strong. Now, when it says the ability to eat all foods, when a dosha is in balance, then that dosha is able to eat foods that would ordinarily cause an imbalance. Because the Agni can be strong and is in a body of balance, the body will be able to handle any curveballs or slight toxins and slight causes of imbalance and will be able to neutralize them in a healthy way. Obviously, over consuming these things will then lead to a buildup of ama and imbalance, which could offset the Agni. Now, ama gives you dull skin and eyes, an unpleasant taste in your mouth, with a coated tongue in the morning. As I mentioned previously, talking about the daily routine, a buildup of ama is shown by a coated tongue and an unpleasant taste in the morning. If this is something that you experience, I recommend not just cleaning your tongue with a silver or copper spoon, but also to investigate what it is that is causing this negative effect or buildup of ama in your system. Having strong bad breath or urine that is cloudy, dark, and discolored are also indicators of ama. A weak digestion with chronic constipation or diarrhea, loss of appetite, and aching joints. Again, we can see that these are things that are targets of what doshas in balance are able to keep functional. Kapha is responsible for lubricating the joints. If we have aching joints, then kapha is out of balance and there must be ama present. So, how do we control the ama in our body through food? Well, fortunately, Ayurveda is primarily a food-based medicine. And so all of it can be accounted for through and treated through food. When considering diet from an Ayurvedic perspective, there are two main categories that we need to understand. We need to understand rasas or tastes and gunyas. Rasas can be broken into 6 groups, which we understand from a Western perspective. This is sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. There's plenty of information about these 6 groups. I recommend that you do a further search online to take a look at what foods specifically fall under each of these groups. But you will see as we go on now how these will be applicable. Next, we have our gunyas. These can be broken into 3 groups of 2. We have heavy or light, oily or dry, and hot or cold. In the heavy or light group, we have wheat, which is heavy, and barley, which is light, beef, which is heavy, and chicken, which is light, and cheese, heavy, milk, light. These are things opposite to consider. If you need one, have the other. If it will throw you out of balance. So this is a place where we can find our balance and will be applicable once we get to the next slide. In the oily or dry category, we have oily milk and honey as dry, soybeans as oily and lentils as dry, coconut as oily and cabbage as dry. And lastly here we have hot or cold, with peppermint being hot and mint being cold, honey hot and sugar cold, and finally eggs hot with milk being cold. Interesting that milk is present in each of these categories as a light, oily, cold ingredient. Looking at the effects of these two groups on doshas, we see that we have a column of putting the doshas into balance, and we have a column that aggravates the doshas and throws them out of balance. Starting with vata, we see that sweet, sour, and salty rasas and heavy, oily, and hot gunyas put vata into balance, while pungent, bitter, and astringent rasas with light, dry, and cold gunyas aggravating vata. Pitta is balanced by sweet, bitter, and astringent rasas and cold, heavy, and dry gunyas, while pitta is aggravated by pungent, sour, and salty rasas and hot, light, oily gunyas. Kapha, almost as an opposite to vata, has pungent, bitter, and astringent rasas or tastes, with light, dry, and hot gunyas balancing it, which is what aggravates a vata. And then we have sweet, sour, and salty rasas with heavy, oily, and cold gunyas aggravating kapha, while almost the same is what balances vata. Moving on now, we are going to take a look at a specifically pacifying diet for each of the doshas. We have a very brief little list here of foods to favor and foods to reduce. Uh, I will read more through the process, but listed here we just have some examples of what you should favor and what you should reduce. Vata is balanced by salty, sour, and sweet rasas, with salty being especially balancing for vata. Any and all soothing foods are good for settling a disturbed vata, with warm milk, cream, butter, warm soups, long cooked stews, hot cereals, and fresh baked bread being examples of these. And these are all sweet, warm, and heavy. As for foods to favor, as far as vegetables go, we have asparagus, beets, carrots, cucumber, green beans, okra, onions and garlic, but cooked, radishes, sweet potatoes, and turnips, while vegetables that you should reduce, um, although cooking these vegetables in oil would make them acceptable. So if you do like them or want them, cook them in oil. We have broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, celery, leafy green vegetables like spinach, mushrooms, peas, peppers, potatoes, sprouts, and zucchini. Fruits that you should favor as a vata are stewed fruits, apricots, avos, bananas, berries, cherries, coconut, dates, figs, sweet, well ripened fruit like grapes, mangoes, melons, nectarines, oranges, papayas, peaches, pineapples, and plums. That almost turned into a tongue twister. Papayas, peaches, pineapple, and plums. Say that fast 3 times. And fruits to reduce: apples, cranberries, pears, and pomegranates. If these are cooked, they are more acceptable, while dried fruits or unripe fruits, especially banana, should be reduced or removed. As far as grains go, we can favor oats, cooked though, rice, and wheat, and we should reduce barley, buckwheat, corn, dry oats, millet, and rye. It's not included on the slide, but all dairy is acceptable unless you have a lactose intolerance or deficiency. Meat to include is chicken and seafood in general, also turkey. Meat to reduce is red meat. Again, not on the slide, we have beans. So things to include are um, chickpeas, mung beans, pink lentils, and tofu. Um, none that can specifically be removed except anything that's been noted now. All oils are acceptable for vata, especially sesame oil, and all sweeteners are acceptable. All nuts and seeds are acceptable in small amounts, especially almonds. Finally, we have our spices. For vata, almost all the spices are acceptable, but they must be kept in moderation, with an emphasis on sweet or heating herbs and spices that heat the body, and spices to minimize, especially large quantities of bitter and astringent herbs and spices. But again, moderation is exceptionally important. Moving on to a pitta pacifying diet. So, pitta is balanced by bitter, sweet, and astringent rasas, with bitter especially being balancing for pitta. In summer, it's best to eat cool, refreshing food with a decrease in oil, salt, and spices. Bitter and astringent tastes are best for a pitta person. Milk and ice cream are also definitely good for a pitta person. So if you have that sweet tooth, indulge it with some ice cream or a milkshake. Now, to our foods that we should favor and reduce. Um, Starting again with vegetables, we have asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, celery, leafy green vegetables, lettuce, mushrooms, okra, peas, potatoes, sprouts, sweet peppers, sweet potatoes, and zucchini, while vegetables to reduce are garlic, hot peppers, onions, radishes, and tomatoes. Fruits that we can favor are apples, avos, cherries, coconuts, figs, pears, prunes, grapes, mangoes, melons, oranges, plums, and raisins. And all of these should be sweet and ripe. Fruits to reduce are apricots, berries, cherries, the sour kind, cranberries, grapefruit, lemons, persimmons, fruits that are sour or unripe, and grapes, oranges, and pineapples should be sweet. Grains that we should favor are barley, oats, wheat, and white rice, while reducing should be brown rice, corn, millet, and rye. It doesn't mention it here on our slide, but in terms of dairy, butter, egg whites, ghee, ice cream, and milk should be favored, while buttermilk, cheese, sour cream, and yogurt should be reduced. Meats to favor are chicken, shrimp, and turkey for a pitta person, while red meat and seafood in general should be reduced or avoided. In terms of beans, the only bean to reduce is lentils, with chickpeas, mung beans, tofu, and soybean products being acceptable. Oils are an interesting one. Pitta must favor coconut, olive, soy, and sunflower oil, while almond, corn, safflower, and sesame oil should be avoided in all ways. As for sweeteners, all sweeteners are acceptable except honey and molasses. And as for nuts and seeds, coconut, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds are good. Finally, with herbs and spices, most spices are heating to the body in some way. And so, for this reason, um, heating spices should be reduced. But some sweet, bitter, and astringent ones are good in small amounts for pitta, including small amounts of cumin and black pepper. But mainly in terms of the herbs and spices, we have cardamom, cilantro or coriander, rocket or coriander. I've forgotten. Cinnamon as well, dill, fennel, mint, saffron, and turmeric. And the spices to reduce are barbecue sauce, catsup, sour salad dressing, mustard, and to reduce all pungent herbs and spices and to take them only in small amounts. Our last diet to cover is our kapha pacifying diet. Kapha is balanced by pungent, bitter, and astringent rasas, with pungent being the most balancing for kapha. It's important for kaphas to choose always a hot meal over a cold meal at every opportunity. Dry cooking methods like baking and grilling are better than moist ones or wet ones like steaming and boiling. And it's important for a kapha person to stimulate their appetite before eating with bitter or pungent tastes, not sweet or salty tastes. Looking at foods that the kapha should favor and reduce. For vegetables, we have asparagus, beets, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, eggplant for the first time, garlic, leafy green vegetables, lettuce, mushrooms, okra, onions, peas, peppers, potatoes, radishes, spinach, and sprouts. And to reduce, we have sweet and juicy vegetables like sweet potatoes, tomatoes, and zucchini. Fruits to favor are apples, apricots, cranberries, pears, pomegranates, and dried fruits in general, while avoiding avos, bananas, coconuts, dates, fresh figs, mangoes, melons, oranges, papayas, peaches, pineapples, and anything sweet, sour, or very juicy fruit. Grains to favor, we have barley, buckwheat, corn, millet, and rye. And grains to reduce are oats, rice, and wheat. Uh, in terms of dairy, Kappa should look at a low or non fat milk um, or just all kinds of dairy in small amounts. Meat, they should eat chicken, shrimp, and turkey, reducing red meat and seafood in general. Um, all legumes or all beans are acceptable for a kappa, but they should reduce kidney beans and tofu. Finally, in terms of oils, they can maintain almond, corn, safflower, and sunflower, while olive and I think just olive oil and coconut oil should be avoided. Sweeteners, they can have raw, unheated honey, but aside from that, should avoid other sweeteners. Pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds are acceptable, and simply with spice, uh, kappas should avoid salt, and ginger is best for improving digestion. That is all I have for a kappa pacifying diet. I'll end this by moving to our final thoughts as always. Ayurveda believes that we are affected by our environment as much as we affect our environment. If we live in a dirty environment, we will get dirty energy from it. I challenge you at the very least to go now and pick up just one piece of litter. Before I say thank you, I just wanted to round off that I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share some of this health-based knowledge with you. I take a lot of pride in trying to work this health into my own life and the health of my family, and I'm happy to and glad that I'm able to share it, and I hope that you have enjoyed it in the very least. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.